All right, good day, everybody. This is E. Marcel Pursuit, the Sports Inquirer, and we're happy to be joined by President and CEO of Peach Bowl Incorporated, Gary Stokin. Thank you for joining us, Gary. I know you have a very busy week ahead of you, or that you're in right now. Really appreciate the time with us.
Well, thanks for having us. This is a great time of the year. Kickoff of college football, and we're excited.
I know I consider this the really true kick. I know we had week zero, and respect to those teams and those conferences, but this is really the week where we get ramped up. But first thing, I think myself and our listeners and readers or viewers would like to know change in the name. Aflac Kickoff was so much to Chick-fil-A being so incorporated in the culture here in the Southeast in Atlanta, but now Aflac has joined the naming. What was that process like, and what led to that decision?
Well, we're very blessed to have Aflac join us. We last year we started a new tradition, and we went to New York to ring in the New York Stock Exchange bell to kick off college football and start the season. And while in New York, I had the opportunity to meet with Virgil Miller, who's the president of Aflac. And Chick-fil-A had met with us earlier in the year and said, you know, we're growing. We have a lot of things to do that we like to take the money out of the kickoff game and spend it on those endeavors. But we want to stay as a part of the bowl, title sponsor of the bowl, which Chick-fil-A is the longest serving title sponsor in bowl history. So they'll stay as title of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. But they said, if you can find somebody else, great. If you can't, come back to us, we'll help you out. And so while I was in New York and meeting with Virgil, as Michael Jordan has said, you only miss the shots you don't take. So I took a shot and said, Virgil, you guys are heavily invested in college football. You're a Georgia company like we are. We both have near and dear to our heart Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, where they've spent $168 million to start the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorders Center at Children's Healthcare, and served hundreds of thousands of kids. And in 2019, the Peach Bowl, we donated $20 million to start trials and find cures to eradicate childhood cancer at the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorders Center at Children's Healthcare. So there's a community of interest there. And after a couple other phone calls in 3 weeks, we had a deal. And so now we're the Aflac kickoff game. So very happy to have Aflac join us. We're going to raise additional dollars for the Peach Bowl Legacy Fund at the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center. And Aflac is also going to raise more money for the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center. As we're calling this game the Kickoff for a Cause. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and our games fall in September. So all of this makes so much sense. So we're really going to take advantage of the relationships we have to keep trying to find a cure to give a kid another month, another year, another lifetime, because no kid deserves to suffer from the unfortunate parts of cancer. So it's very important to us. And so this year, we're going to continue to ring the bell in for college football by having everybody come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We've got about 15 CEOs that are on the New York Stock Exchange. And we've got the governor coming, the mayor coming. We have the duck coming, Buzz the Bee, Louis the Cardinal, Huddle's our mascot. They're all going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Friday morning. And at 9:30, we are going to ring the bell to the New York Stock Exchange virtually and ring in college football. So the governor will push the old leather helmet to ring the bell to start the trading session, but also to start the college football season.
Yeah, that's very exciting for you. We'll get to the philanthropy later on during our conversation, but it's very interesting because this is the longest tenured kickoff game thing currently in the country, and we're both older gentlemen. So I remember we would have the occasional Hall of Fame game, I think in New Jersey back in the 90s, but it was very sporadic, some years on and some years off. But what's led to the stability to have this kickoff contest, Chick-fil-A and now Aflac Kickoff Classic, or game take place here in Atlanta for for a really long tenure now.
Well, it was interesting. Back in 2006, when the old BCS decided to create a championship game, we made a strong bid. We thought it was a winning bid. And the commissioners at the time decided to let the existing four BCS bowls, the Rose, the Sugar, the Orange, and the Fiesta, host their games, and then on a rotational basis, host the national championship game. So we didn't win that bid. In 2007, the NCAA legislated the 12th game to the schedule. So I'm a very competitive person. I went to my board and I said, look, if the BCS is not going to let us in on the back side of the season, then we're going to start the BCS on the front side of the season. And I said, I'm going to go with the relationships I have and go find teams that are willing to play each other at the beginning of the season. And we're going to pay them a lot of money. And we're going to create a new tradition in college football. And I called it the Daytona 500 of college football. And subsequently, in the first month that I did that, through all the press releases, Daytona 500 sent me a cease and desist letter asking that we not use the Daytona 500 name for the game. So, but we started with Clemson and Alabama. Clemson was ranked number 9. Alabama, it was Nick Saban's second season. And people forget this. In his first year, he was only 7-6.
I remember.
And lost to Louisiana Monroe. And so when I talked to Nick, who was a friend, because we met each other during 2000 season when I had LSU here to play Georgia Tech, Nick said, Gary, if we can play in Atlanta, we'd love to do it because Georgia is such a hot recruiting base that if we can win recruiting in Alabama, be number 1 in Alabama and finish number 2 to Georgia in Georgia for recruiting, we'll play for national championships. Well, they came in and they were not even ranked or maybe ranked 25th in some polls. They came in and beat Clemson 34-10. The cover of Sports Illustrated had Alabama's back as its cover. And Nick Saban would tell you that was the start of their dynasty, that game in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. And the next year, Alabama came in ranked number 5 in the country, and Virginia Tech was ranked number 7 under Frank Beamer in our Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Alabama won the game, won the national championship that year, and had 19 kids from Georgia on their roster. So, this game has been very influential in Alabama, Georgia. Kirby Smart's first game was in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game against North Carolina, a win for him. And so this game, prior to us starting this game in 2008, college football at the beginning of the season was very nondescript games. Attendance was not very good at games because the games were in the heat, obviously, but they were over at halftime. It was like 35-0 at halftime. And the TV viewing audience wasn't very good. And now, since we've started this game, you look, Texas is playing Alabama the second game of the year this year. Notre Dame played Ohio State last year, the first game of the year. So we've changed the mentality of college football scheduling and helped college football in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and you mentioned the intra-conference matches in the past with Alabama playing Clemson and so forth. The past few years, you've gone the opposite end. You had last year was Clemson and Georgia Tech, and this year is Georgia Tech and Louisville. Is that just the way the schedule's worked out, or is that – I know you have a partnership with – or at least the stadium has a deal with Georgia Tech. Is this a trend we expect in the future, more of interconference matches, or will it go back to more of a teams from different conferences facing each other?
Yeah, Georgia Tech has its own contract with Mercedes-Benz to put one game a year in Mercedes-Benz. And we have a relationship with the ACC where as well as the SEC. Those two conferences used to be in our Peach Bowl game. And when we moved into the CFP New Year's Six game, where we don't dictate the teams or the conferences, the CFP selection committee will provide us our teams at the end of the year based on whether we're a semifinal or going forward, whether a quarterfinal game or not. But we meet with the ACC and say, look, you have a Monday night exclusive TV slot on ESPN. Anytime that we can help with local teams, use that game as a Chick-fil-A kickoff game, we'd be happy to help you. And so last year, Clemson, Georgia Tech, both close by. We started the season with an ACC conference game. And this year we're doing the same. We met with the ACC and Georgia Tech. They were going to play Louisville first game. I think the ACC's got Duke and Clemson for their Monday night game. So we said, well, we'll play Friday. We've never played a Friday night. Kick off college football on Friday night with a primetime game, exclusive TV slot on ESPN with Louisville and Georgia Tech. And so that's how it developed. So we're really looking forward to playing Friday night and having an ACC game to kick off the season.
Yeah, and another thing that's developed over the years with this game and the Chick-fil-A bowl game is the college football Hall of Fame. It's for those who don't know. I mean, it hasn't been always in Atlanta. We're so used to it being in Atlanta now, and that looks pretty. You were front line with that as far as getting it to Atlanta. What was that process like for you, getting the Hall of Fame in Atlanta, and also how has that tie-in kind of helped with the synergy of both of your football games?
Yeah, that story is a book unto itself. That was, a strategy. I came out of the Atlanta Sports Council, running the Sports Council in 1998, and we had just come out of the Olympics in '96. And Bob Costas termed a phrase, "Atlanta's the sports capital of the world." And so I said, well, we're going to promote that. And so, we brought in Final Fours and Super Bowls, et cetera, and built on the legacy of the Olympics. And then when I looked at the college football landscape, I said, we could do the same thing for college football. So we had a vision to make Atlanta the capital of college football. And I went to South Bend, where the Hall of Fame was located, for an induction ceremonies, enshrinement ceremonies for the Hall of Famers. And it was very antiquated. They were only doing about 60,000 people a year. And I said, boy, this would be tremendous in Atlanta. We're a college football hotbed, a lot of alumni living here from different schools. We're going to build something special with college football. So that was like 2003, something like that. And it wasn't until 2011 that we signed the deal, because they had a lease that ran through 2010 at South Bend. But we moved the College Football Hall of Fame here, and it's been great for college football, great for the tourism industry. It probably has about 250,000 people going through it on an annual basis. And so it's been very important to us in our vision of college football. We followed that up with, as we talked prior to this, the kickoff game format. And then the last part of that was to elevate the bowl game. In 1998, when I was in charge of selecting the teams, I selected Virginia, who was ranked, I think, number 12, and Georgia, who wasn't ranked. Yeah. And our own newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, headline read that Georgia's going to the Peach Bowl, a third-tier bowl game. So in our own city, we were looked at as a third-tier bowl game. And so through a lot of work, through a lot of partnerships, through a lot of great effort by the staff and the board and the volunteers, we were able to elevate the bowl to get into the New Year's Six when the CFP started in 2013-14. So that was the last piece to really put us over the hump. And then, we went on to host national championships in 17. We'll host again in 25, the first city to host twice in the CFP era. As we move forward in next year, we'll host the first quarterfinal of the CFP 12-team playoff, where we'll host either number 1, 2, 3, or 4 against a winner of the first round games. And then in 25, we'll host the semifinal again for the CFP playoff, which last year's semifinal, we had 24.5 million viewers, which is in the top 20 all-time cable TV broadcast in the history of cable TV, and was just an instant classic. So, with Atlanta being the 4th largest convention town in this country, our 2 kickoff games last year, our bowl game, were 3 of the top 5 conventions. And annually, our 1 kickoff game and our 1 bowl game are in the top 5. So you put that along with the SEC championship, and 3 of the top 5 conventions on an annual basis are college football, in the 4th largest convention town in the United States. So that's how important college football is to Atlanta. It's great economic impact and a great tax driver for the city and the state.
Yeah, and I'll get to this now. You mentioned earlier the charitable donation with Aflac and the just the contributions to the community. I was a former volunteer myself back in the day. That's how I started in getting involved with it. Now I'm in the media side of things. But what about the volunteers and just the atmosphere of the game? Because it really does. That's a big part of the event. I know yourself. You will wear the volunteer shirt as well, because it seems like you really have a big connection with the volunteers and how it really impacts the city as these games take place.
Well, I have a unique history with the bowl. I back in 1985 helped Robert Dale Morgan get his job at the Chamber, which at that time ran the Peach Bowl. And Robert Dale, through our friendship, asked me to serve on the team selection committee. So I was a volunteer from 85 to 98 when I worked for Adidas and Converse, and I had my own sports marketing company. And so I started as a volunteer. I used to hang banners down at old Fulton County Stadium in that cold, wintry days outside. So I have a great appreciation for the volunteers, which I think we provide the best Southern hospitality and best experience. And I don't say that, just out of braggadocious statements. We were voted this year by the 44 bowl games to have the best student athlete experience. So we won the award at the national convention of bowl season. And that's due to our volunteers and our staff doing such a great job of providing Southern hospitality and really caring about, the experience that the fans, the student athletes, the administration are going to have when they come to our city. So, it's very important to us to provide that Southern hospitality and make sure people have a great experience.
Yeah, for sure. And then lastly, you mentioned the expansion of the playoffs. So conference realignment has been really the story of the off season. How has the bowl or the Peach Bowl Inc. not necessarily stay ahead of the curve, but just kind of how are you assessing the not uncertainty, but just the change in the conference realignment? Because that's a direct effect on you, I'm sure, is bowl eligibility, bowl tie-ins. How have y'all handled that, and just as a business as we get through?
Well, it impacts us in a
2023?
couple ways.
Yeah.
One is, scheduling wise, what are the conferences going to do scheduling wise? Because currently with the ACC and SEC, who are the primary teams that play in our Aflac kickoff game, having 8 games on their conference schedule really helps us, because with 4 non-conference games to schedule, there's some inventory left for us to select teams. If they move to a 9-game conference schedule, that inventory shrinks, and it makes it very difficult to schedule these kickoff game format games. So that's important. So you have to watch that, see what develops with the conference scheduling. And then secondly, as it relates to the bowl, we're in good shape right now. We've done a great job as a New Year's Six bowl game, hosting, semifinals and top 10 teams on an annual basis. And the goal is to continue that relationship with the CFP into the future. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to host the quarter and semi in 24 and 25, but the CFP will have new contracts in 2026 with TV networks as well as with bowls. And so we don't quite know what that will look like. We think they'll stay with a 12-team playoff, but again, they've got 2 years of testing it in 24 and 25, and then they'll make the decision in 26 which direction they go. But our goal is to remain as one of the top bowls, like the Rose, the Sugar, the Orange, the Cotton, and Fiesta, and host quarters and semis on an annual basis.
Yeah, and once again, thank you for your time, Gary. But just what can people look forward to over the next few days as they get ready for Louisville and Georgia Tech on a Friday night?
Well, I know everybody's got pent-up demand to watch college football, and so we kick off with our tailgate town in International Plaza, right next to Mercedes-Benz, where we've got all kinds of sponsor activities, games, giveaways. So people should come out there and enjoy that before they go watch the teams actually get off their bus and walk through Home Depot backyard into the stadium. And then we'll kick off at 7:36 the college football season in Atlanta in the Aflac kickoff game.
All right. Well, Gary, appreciate the time. Thank you for speaking with us. And hopefully we can do this again in the near future when you get ready for the bowl game.
That'd be great. We'd enjoy that. And hopefully we see you at the game and get a chance to host you.
Absolutely.